Tonight, the family of American student Amanda Knox vows to fight her murder conviction in Italy. We'll have the latest on this controversial case and what lies ahead. I'm Jeff Glor. Also tonight, terror trials protest. Some families of the 9/11 victims rally against plans for those terrorism suspects being brought to the U.S. More Americans are working at temp jobs. Is it a signal we've turned the corner on unemployment? And the biggest thing at this week's Los Angeles Auto Show, smaller cars with higher gas mileage.
The manufacturers have to develop these cars and push them onto the market and pray that consumers will start buying them.
This is the CBS Evening News with Jeff Glor.
Good evening. American college student Amanda Knox and her family are gearing up for a long appeals process tonight, following her conviction in an Italian courtroom last night for the murder of her British roommate Meredith Kercher. Knox was immediately sentenced to 26 years imprisonment. Former boyfriend and co-defendant Rafael Sollecito to 25 years. Alan Pizzi has the latest tonight from Perugia, Italy.
Amanda Knox's family had thought they would be going to the Perugia prison today to take her home. Instead, they got a brief visit.
Amanda, like the rest of us, is extremely disappointed, upset about the decision. We're all in shock.
And what did they talk about?
We told her she's going to get out of here. It's going to take a little longer.
She's innocent. She's innocent, and she will come home.
After the chaotic time they had getting into and out of court last night, being ambushed by the press at the prison was just another facet of a system and carnival atmosphere the Knoxes have come to know well over the 2 years that this story has dragged on. Even though none of them speak Italian, the family didn't need translation to know what the judge was saying when the sentence was read out at midnight.
I know our lawyers would have looked back and smiled at us if they would have said innocent, and she looked at me and there were tears in her eyes, and I automatically knew.
For the other family ripped apart by this story, there was no sense of triumph. The parents and siblings of the victim, British student Meredith Kercher, maintained from the start that all they wanted was justice.
It's not a moment of triumph, and as we've said before, at the end of the day, we're all gathered here because, our sister was brutally murdered and taken away from us. Of course, two very young people yesterday who've, been sentenced to a long time behind bars.
At the end of the day, you have to go on the evidence because there is nothing else.
The Knoxes thought the evidence would provide at least enough reasonable doubt for their daughter and her former boyfriend, Rafael Sollecito, to go free.
Having a system that is beyond a reasonable doubt to come up with a verdict, it's a complete miscarriage of justice, and it's a travesty to the Italian judicial system.
And so Amanda Knox is back here in the prison that has been her home since she was arrested 2 years ago. She has an automatic right to appeal, but the process won't begin until next October, unless the pressure the Knox family is trying to build up in the U.S. can force the issue. Jeff?
Alan, let's talk for a second about that appeals process. Once it does begin, how long might it take and how exactly does it work?
It can take up to 2 years, and it is in essence a retrial, but it is very effective because she didn't get the full life sentence. She could have her sentence cut in half, even if it's not thrown out. Then there's time off for good behavior, time off for time served. She could end up doing as little as 6 years if the appeal goes her way, Jeff.
All right, Alan Pizzi from Italy tonight. Alan, thank you. The CBS News broadcast 48 Hours Mystery has been following this case from the beginning. And in a special report later this evening, correspondent Peter Van Zandt examines a key piece of evidence used to link the killing to Amanda Knox and her former boyfriend, Rafael Sollecito.
In court, the prosecution presented two crucial pieces of DNA evidence to the jury, starting with this knife, allegedly used to kill Meredith.
It's a 30-centimeter kitchen knife.
Is this the murder weapon? Prosecutor Manini says yes, that it was found at Raffaele's apartment. There was no blood on the knife, but investigators say they did find DNA. Amanda's on the handle and Meredith's on the blade.
Well, it sounds like the murder weapon. She handled it, she stabs, and it leaves DNA on it.
That's not necessarily true, because there's always a transference of evidence when you live with people. Amanda's DNA is on a knife that she used that was in a kitchen drawer at Raphael's apartment. That knife was never at the murder scene. The DNA that purportedly belongs to Meredith on that knife was tested out of existence by the Italians. It was never verified.
There's another problem with the knife. Police discovered 2 faint knife impressions on Meredith's bed. When the alleged murder knife is compared to those outlines, it doesn't match.
That's the knife they want you to believe is the murder weapon, but it's not the murder weapon. It doesn't fit the outline on the sheets.
Peter Van Zandt joins us now. Seems like some pretty damning evidence you found, Peter. Let's talk also about this DNA, more about it, because you say that this DNA would have been inadmissible in a U.S. court, which leads to the question, is there any definitive evidence that Amanda Knox did this?
There is absolutely no definitive forensic evidence that Amanda Knox committed this murder. There is definitive evidence that the real killer, Rudy Gaudet, did this murder. His bloody fingerprint is there. His hair is on the victim. He left a mess in the bathroom, and his bloody fingerprint is inside her purse. If you were to believe the prosecutor's theory that this is a sex game gone bad, Amanda Knox would have left hair, would have left skin cells. There would have been bloody footprints. Well, guess what? She didn't, levitate into that room. There are no bloody footprints in that room of Amanda Knox or Raffaele Sollecito. So how did they do this and manage to float in, float out without leaving any DNA evidence behind? It's a terrible case.
Most Americans think that when you go overseas, or many think, the rules are the same as in our system. That is, in fact, not the case in Italy.
Absolutely not. And Italy is considered the poor man of Europe in terms of its judicial system. Jurors there, believe it or not, are allowed to deliberate with one another throughout the case. So day 2, one can look at the other and say, I really think that she is guilty. It's extraordinary. Also, they didn't sequester. They do not sequester in Italy during the trial. So they were subject to this avalanche of negative tabloid reporting, that much of which were complete lies that made Amanda out to be this she-devil and a cold-hearted killer, which she is anything but.
So an Italian court found Amanda Knox guilty. 48 Hours launched a long investigation, a thorough investigation. The results of your investigation are what?
She's an innocent woman. And I would stake my reputation as a journalist. I've been in this business for a quarter century. She is an innocent woman.
We'll be watching later tonight. Peter Van Zandt, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
And a reminder, you can see the full 48 Hours mystery special report entitled American Girl, Italian Murder, The Verdict, later tonight at 10 o'clock, right here on CBS. Now, here in New York today, hundreds rallied to protest the government's plans to hold major terrorism trials in the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. That courthouse is just a few blocks from Ground Zero. Randall Pinkston has that story.
With the passion of a political rally, the demonstrators focused their anger on the Obama administration and U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder's plan to put 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and his associates on trial in New York.
He wants to give him a stage in that federal courthouse. We're here to say that is not going to happen.
Deborah Burlingame's brother Charles was a pilot who was killed when hijackers crashed his plane into the Pentagon.
In the midst of war, the Obama administration wants to put on a show trial.
Attorney General Holder says it's time for the 5 suspected terrorists now being held in Guantanamo to face justice.
It is our belief that the attack on the World Trade Center was an act of war.
Retired New York City firefighter Tim Brown launched a national petition drive to challenge Holder's decision.
We don't agree that these murderous terrorists are entitled to the same rights afforded our nation's citizens under our Constitution.
Despite skepticism about giving Guantanamo detainees trials in U.S. courts, since 9/11, federal prosecutors have obtained nearly 200 convictions in terrorism-related cases.
Former U.S. Attorney David Kelly believes federal court is more effective than military tribunals.
I don't really understand the criticism here, particularly when the tribunals have had 7 years to get up and running, and they haven't done it.
And some families of 9/11 victims support federal court trials.
For me personally and for my family, what's most important is to hold accountable those who plotted my mom's murder.
These protesters agree with accountability, just not here. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
Senate Finance Committee Chairman Max Baucus has confirmed a news report tonight that he was romantically involved with a former staffer who he recommended for a U.S. attorney's job in Montana last year. A spokesman says Melody Haynes withdrew her name from a list of 3 finalists submitted to the White House after she and Baucus decided to move in together. Coming up next on tonight's CBS Evening News, will a rise in temporary jobs lead to more permanent ones down the road? President Obama will visit Capitol Hill tomorrow to rally Democrats as the Senate works through the weekend on health care reform legislation. He'll speak to a caucus meeting of Democratic senators. In his weekly address today, Mr. Obama promised to pull out all the stops to spur job growth. Meanwhile, new figures yesterday showed the unemployment rate unexpectedly dropped in November. The market for temporary workers is picking up. So the question is, can the demand for permanent ones be far behind? Michelle Miller has more on that.
Yeah. On a visit with her grandparents, Tricia Laurel is sharing good news about her career track.
I work with the graphic design teams.
An event planner freelancing with a temp agency. She just completed a 3-month-long assignment with Stony Brook University and lined up another one this week with Hofstra University.
I do feel like things are starting to pick up a lot more.
So more business that you like, or more business period?
More business period.
According to November's jobs report, the number of temp jobs like Tricia's has risen for the 4th straight month, an indicator the employment outlook may be turning around. The professional and business services sectors added about 86,000 jobs last month. 53,000 of them were temporary workers. That's up 6.7% overall.
Temp work doesn't peak during the recession. Temp work usually peaks at the beginning of a recovery.
Manufacturing is definitely up. Office services type of business is up, and healthcare has been up.
Phil Misserlian owns a leading temp agency in the New York area and says in the last 3 months, orders for his workers have doubled, and 60% of them are long-term.
Companies come to a temp agency because they don't want to hire somebody permanently first in a recession and then find out a week later, a month later, they're going to lay them off.
Take GameStop, the nation's largest video game retailer. It hired 15,000 part-time employees this fall for the holiday season, a 46% increase to its overall staffing.
They like to retain good people, and I just hope come January I'm one of those good people they retain.
But industry analysts are cautiously waiting to see if demand continues past the holiday peak. With a recommendation letter from Stony Brook, Tricia believes a full-time opportunity will open up in January.
He knows I'll be calling. As soon as January comes, I'll be calling him.
Economists say this could signal 2 things for our economy: a floor from which the employment rate could rebound, and patience. If this is a recovery, one analyst says it will be a slow one. Jeff?
Michelle Miller from the streets of Manhattan tonight. Michelle, thank you. Just ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, did some scientists fudge the numbers to make climate change look worse than it is? It was a change of plans for the president. Instead of attending the climate change summit in Copenhagen when it opens next week, he'll arrive near the end on December 18th. That might mean a climate deal is within reach. But a series of leaked emails between climate scientists is casting a cloud over this meeting, as we hear now from Kimberly Dozier.
Hundreds of world leaders and climate change experts are descending on Copenhagen to try to come up with a new pact to slow global warming. And thousands of protesters across Europe today were trying to send them a message. It's time to stop talking and make a deal. But reaching that deal has now been complicated by what's being called ClimateGate, a string of hacked private emails between global climate change scientists in the U.S. and Europe, which have cast doubts on the very science this summit is based on. The emails seem to show that some of the world's top experts decided to exclude or manipulate some research that didn't help prove global warming exists. 1998 was the hottest year since record-keeping began, but the temperature went down the next year, and it's only spiked a couple of times since. An email from 1999 shows scientists worked hard to demonstrate an upward trend. They talk of using a trick to hide the decline in global temperatures. It worked like this. When temperature readings gathered from studying tree rings showed what looked like a decline in temperatures from the 1980s to the present, the scientists added in measurements taken later by more modern instruments, which gave them the answer they wanted. The scientists say the emails are being misinterpreted.
A lot of charges have been made that I think are quite unjustified, cherry-picking information and not taking it quite out of context and misrepresenting what it's actually saying.
Senator James Inhofe, a climate change skeptic, says the emails prove the global warming threat is exaggerated. He wants a congressional investigation.
We're relying upon that science for a bunch of stuff that we would be doing that would lose a lot of jobs and really affect Americans. I do believe that an investigation would show that they have clearly manipulated the data.
The official U.S. position hasn't changed, that climate change is real and needs to be addressed.
Climate change is happening. I don't think that's anything that is, quite frankly, among most people in dispute anymore.
Two major carbon producers, India and China, agree. They just announced they'll set goals to lower their carbon emissions. Though the U.S. Congress hasn't agreed on an American plan to lower emissions, President Obama's visit to Copenhagen at the end of the meeting instead of the beginning as originally planned is being taken as a positive sign.
As President Obama said, he will come to Copenhagen if a deal is feasible. And I have always said, and we have in the United Nations said, that while nothing is guaranteed, the world is ready for a deal.
But the leaked memos have given ammunition to critics of climate change. So climate change supporters fear Copenhagen may only produce the framework for an agreement that then will be passed on to next year. Jeff?
All right, Kimberly Dozier from our Washington bureau tonight. Kimberly, thank you. Coming up on tonight's CBS Evening News. At the big Los Angeles auto show, things are looking smaller. Car manufacturers are rolling out their newest models at the big Los Angeles Auto Show this week. And for U.S. automakers, it's a chance to reintroduce themselves to car buyers looking for higher mileage and lower prices. Ben Tracy has been kicking the tires.
Glitz, glam, and a cool concept car used to be enough to turn heads at the auto show. But in Los Angeles this week, there's a new concept: affordability.
We have to be about having vehicles that people want to buy at a price they can afford in high volume.
U.S. automakers saw a huge spike in sales in August during the height of the Cash for Clunkers program, up 19 to 39%. But sales have fallen off a cliff since then, down as much as 38%. Now car makers are trying to appeal to bargain-minded shoppers.
These days, people want their dollar to work as hard for them as they ever have in their lives.
3! So Ford's big reveal is one of the smallest cars they've ever made in the U.S., the redesigned Fiesta. It gets 40 miles per gallon and costs $19,000.
You feel cool, because it just purrs, you know what I mean?
To create buzz, Ford gave Fiestas to 100 internet-savvy 20-somethings for 6 months. They tweeted and YouTubed their way to millions in free advertising.
I am on the 4 wheels of a Ford Fiesta.
A lot of young people don't really watch TV anymore, and if they're watching TV, it's online.
Everyone is watching General Motors. Their CEO abruptly resigned this week, and the company recently emerged from bankruptcy. GM is launching its 40-mile-per-gallon Chevy Cruze and its long-awaited plug-in hybrid, the Chevy Volt, in 2010. Only struggling Chrysler had nothing new to debut. The LA Auto Show is critical to U.S. car makers because California is the #1 new car market in the country. It's also considered a trendsetter when it comes to fuel efficiency. U.S. automakers are riding the green bandwagon, trying to compete with Asian manufacturers and meet higher government mileage standards. But Americans typically shun compact cars, and hybrids are expensive.
The manufacturers have to develop these cars and push them onto the market and pray that consumers will start buying them.
Manufacturers also know they need to pay back billions in bailout money.
The best way to do that is to sell vehicles and to make money,
as long as they can get American car buyers in the driver's seat. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Los Angeles.
We'll be right back. Finally tonight, much of the country is getting a foretaste of winter today. A foot of snow or more is expected in the northern plains and upper Midwest, up to a half a foot from Virginia to Maine. In the nation's capital, a light dusting provided a picture-perfect setting for the White House. A little extra white there. That is the CBS Evening News tonight. A reminder later on CBS, the 48 Hours mystery report on the Amanda Knox verdict. Russ Mitchell will be here tomorrow night. For now, I'm Jeff Glor, CBS News in New York. Good night.